You have got to check out the catalyst for this week. I'm going to show you the economic calendar and also the charts. NVIDIA is included in that. Tesla, Bitcoin, first price target hit to the downside on that one. And then we'll also cover SPY, QQQ, and IWM. Absolutely worth checking out. So let's pop up the economic calendar first. And today, 10 a.m., we hit ISM and manufacturing data. And then when we look tomorrow, we have JOLTS at 10 a.m. So that's on Wednesday. Thursday, we have ADP employment. We also have initial jobless claims, ISM services data coming in at 10 a.m. as well. And then probably the biggest day, a really big way to cap off the week that we have here is non-farm payrolls and unemployment rate. Consensus right now rocking in at 4.2%, forecast 4.3. 4.2, I think, is party on mode. That if we hit 4.2, I think there's going to be a lot of pressure coming off the markets. I think that the pressure, instead of pushing down the markets, instead I think that we're going to see it bringing levity to the market. So we would be watchful for that happening, to see that unemployment rate start to ease or settle. 4.3, probably not going to be absolutely horrible. It would be a kind of a stall in where we're at for a climbing unemployment rate. But yes, so either one of those two, 4.2 great, 4.3 okay, 4.4 or higher starts to look absolutely terrible. So just keep that in mind as you watch for these numbers coming out. That what we want to see for non-farm payrolls, by the way, we want to see a strong non-farm payrolls number. Unemployment rate is something that we want to see weaken in terms of unemployment. That would indicate a stronger labor market. So we're looking for a higher amount of non-farm payrolls and lower or even unemployment rate coming out of there. Certainly not worse for either of those two things, because that could be a significant downward pressure on the markets. All right, so let's switch over to the charts on this one. We'll kick things off with SPY, QQQ, and IWM, and then we'll get into the individual things that I would like to cover. So SPY, where are we looking at in the pre-market? Well, let's stretch this thing out to really see where we find ourselves. So where we closed last week, we closed all the way up at 563.68. And then today in the pre-market hours, we're all the way down at 561. So I figured that this week might be a little bit troublesome. We'll see, because there's a lot of important information coming out. And the market, with the uncertainty that goes along with it, it's natural that we wouldn't be climbing up to new all-time highs right now. If we get good news, and as good news piles in, well, then you should see it being reflected in the markets. And if we get news that happens to be taken badly for the markets, well, then again, of course, we see it in ticking down from there. So we are looking at support down about 560, resistance at about 563. If we fall down below 560, you can see we have a large green area of support down here. And there's probably not a lot of downside movement unless we get something that's going to force us to move downward, because with all that support that happens to be down there. Moving over to the Qs, that's an hourly chart. Let's jump up to the daily chart on this one. There we are. And where we find ourselves for the Qs on a daily basis, and we are actually just above support at about 473, so we'd be watchful for that in the pre-market hours, that we do have the support there. Below that takes us all the way down. There's support somewhere around 470, and then 466 is the next big support below that, then 463 to the upside, about 480. So being that we're on the low side right now, the 473-ish, to the upside, by the way, 479 to 43 has been proving to be awfully difficult to overcome. So this 480 that I have marked in here has been rather difficult. You can see the difficulty that we had with it and what happened the last time that we made it up almost to 486 and then got rejected and shoved back down off of this one. So kind of a tough time. Like I said, this week I think is going to tell us which way we're going on this. September is historically not the greatest month for trading, and here we are in September, and our first trading day is September. IWM, where do we find ourselves during the pre-market hours for this one? Well, in the pre-market, 218, and then we are like right in the mix of support in here that has room all the way down to 216. This trend line down here for us is going to be that critical support that we really want to watch out for. Bitcoin, check this out. Bitcoin, first price target to the downside hit. So we actually hit the first two price targets to the upside, and now we're testing out to the downside. We actually got a nice green engulfing candle off of this, taking us back up above this trend line. Good. Watch for the resistance up above. That resistance is about 61,000 to the downside. We tagged, my price target here is 57,598, which is where you see this support right here. And it came down, tagged it down below that, about 55, almost 56,000 is where we find ourselves for that red line that's in there. That's going to be good, solid support for us. If we come down to it, there should be a decent bounce off of that. We do want to stay up above this trend line, and we want to be able to squeeze up into that resistance area to have further upside for Bitcoin. For Tesla, In the pre-market hours, 215 to 216, you can see this price target that I have. Oh man, we might just hit that price target at 216, and this trend line we have to overcome in order to get that. That's off the most recent highs up until now. So most recent highs from that big sell-off that we had in July up until now is what we're looking at. And then this down here, this should actually say support for us now that we're up above that. So we'll switch that up to say support. There we go, which means that we also have to give it a color upgrade. We're going to upgrade that to green, my friends, for support right at about 210. So that support, if we sell off instead, should be down there. If we break up above this, good. Watch out for hitting our heads right about 218. Above 218, this starts to get really exciting because we have room up to about 225. So good news for Tesla. NVIDIA still settling a little bit, still finding its place. 217 in the pre-market hours. We have resistance up above. We're in the support area right now. 218 is what we have to get back up over in order to see further upside. We do have this trend line to contend with as well. And the bottom of this support is at about 115-ish. And then we have a free fall area down to 110 if we happen to fall out of that. So for NVIDIA, we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if we had a bit of a bounce come into this. Like I said, getting up above that 118 is going to be important for seeing further upside. And to the downside of this, 115 to 116 is going to be the bottom. Watch out for that 110, and that's a very thin area of support that we have in there. Falling down through that gives us room all the way down to about 106. To the upside, if we break the trend line, 125 is what we're looking at. So if we can break back above 118 in the pre-market hours, break up above this trend line, that should be, well, for today anyway, around 122. We do have room up to that 125. So we're going to have to see how NVIDIA settles in there. So it should be an exciting day in the market. It should be an exciting week. Guys, if you want to see my buys and sells, you can do that. Buys and link down in the description for Patreon. Head on over to the Discord that's part of that Patreon, and that's where that is. And then you can also talk with me and my community members over there. Also down in the description, if you want to learn to do technical analysis trading like I do, you can find the link for that down in the description as well. Click on that, head on over to StockMo Academy, and you will learn about the bread recipe, how to set up the indicators for the bread recipe, as well as a lot of other content in small, easily digestible pieces. Use the code word doctor when you sign up to save a ton of cash on that. Guys, thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I am Dr. Stock, Doctor of Education. Remember, my friends, that learning is earning, and we'll see you in the next video.